I was trying to maintain this sexy, hip sort of chick, and that just didn't fit into my equation. Epilepsy did not fit into my sexy hip chick equation. So I would take myself off. So I've had probably nearly 300 grand mal seizures in 27 years.
In 27 years. And that's a huge amount.
It's a shitload.
That is a huge amount of seizures. So, and there'd be people out there that would have more seizures than that, wouldn't they?
Over the same time, yeah.
Yeah, and, maybe regular every day or every few days or something like that. And that's why taking the medication is really important. But let's talk about medication and let's talk about natural therapies and things. Talk about that, please, okay. Lainie.
Before I go there, I want to add one more thing in about coming back to consciousness. So there are 30 different types of epilepsy. I really only touched on just one here. But there is, in most of them, if not all of them, there is this period of time where either someone's just staring into space and you're like going, hey, are you listening? It looks like they're vaguing out, but that could be them having a seizure, and they'll bounce back in. But the embarrassing part is that they've lost that time and they don't know what's happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd be too afraid to ask what was going on.
Yeah.
Because so they'd be embarrassed.
Blend in. That's right.
Yeah.
So with the actual ones on the ground, the tonic-clonic ones, there's a period of time where the actual physical seizure stops. The body then just goes to sleep, and the brain just shut down for a minute or two and just goes to sleep. And then there's this period. This is a really important part because a lot of people think, oh, well, that's done, we can go now.
Okay.
But there's this period of time between when the sleep finishes and you are actually back to consciousness that could take 15 minutes.
Right.
So your eyes are open. You could be saying, do you know
where you are, who are you, what's your name, et cetera, et cetera. It's a bit like first date, and you wouldn't answer, you wouldn't respond.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm Beyonce or something like.
Yeah, because your brain's not quite back there yet.
Not quite back.
Yeah.
So until the person actually knows their name and who you are or where they are, it's not actually over.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's, and I mean there are 30 of, different types of seizures, and probably not, there'd be main ones and the others would be more unique, I suppose.
Yeah.
They'd happen to maybe 1% of the population, if that.
Well, I just heard that there's 90 different types of seizures now. There's
90.
30 different types of epilepsy, but there's 90 different types of seizures.
So there's the epilepsy and then there's the seizures. So
yeah, okay. No, the epilepsy is the condition. The seizures are a symptom of an abnormal brain activity.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to have epilepsy to have seizures, but they usually say if you've had 2 seizures that you have epilepsy, which I think is very, give it 5, give it 10, before you start labelling. But no.
Yeah, okay. But then let's come back to the medication, and, you're on medication. What does it make you feel like to stop you from having those seizures?
This has been a massive journey for me, all in the book, great book. I started when Mum saw me have a seizure, it was all about doctors and treatments, and no one knew what it was. I was sort of 19 at the time, 18 or 19.
Right, so a very impressionable age, an age where you don't want anyone to see you like that. You don't want to be feeling like that. What the hell's going on with me? Don't tell my friends. I don't want anyone to know.
Yeah, so I had to go into hospital and get all these tests, and anyway, so the end result was, yeah, you've got this, and we're going to try all these medicines. Oh, okay, well, and I kicked and screamed, but
you did, really?
It was like
Lainie, really?
Yeah, because I was told they said you can't drink or go out late at night.
Party?
Yeah, I was like, I don't think so. I'm 18. You know,
You're going to tell me
want.
You can't tell me I can't do something. I'm at an appreciable age. I want to go out and enjoy myself. But tell us the story.
Well, I just ended up, tail between my legs. I just felt like I didn't have a choice, and I had to go down this path and try it out. People were scared around me. My mum, my family didn't know what was going on. Epilepsy, never heard of it. None of us had heard of it. We didn't know anyone that had it. So the doctor seemed like the option to listen to at that stage.
Mm.
And then that for me didn't last very long, because I was the one having to be the guinea pig and be experimented on.
And you became a rebel, did you?
Well, not at first. At first, I towed the line.
For how long?
I took the pills, and I wanted 7 years.
7 years. That's pretty good. 7 years is pretty good.
I smoked a lot of marijuana to help with the with just trying to shut it all out. But I was still functioning. I was working, but I was on a buttload of meds, and they were making me feel absolutely shit. And I'm like, I think this has got something to do with emotions. I'm really positive, but the doctors didn't want to know anything about it.
Why? Because they just give you medication. Yeah, I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah, we can.
Not going to go there.
Great chapter in my book. So they want to stop the symptoms, and if that means being on 3 different kinds of medicine and just deal with side effects, it's your lot. Anyway, 7 years into it, I broke up with this complete moron that I was going out with, and just went on a journey to find other ways. I just sort of said to my family, my mum particularly, I've done it your way. I'm not happy. I'm going to buy a combi and drive up to the land of the hippies and find some alternative folk. Sorry.
And how was your mum? How did your mum deal with that?
Look, she
didn't have much of a choice.
She didn't have a choice. I was stable on my meds at the time.
Right.
So she didn't know, she wasn't quite sure what that meant.
Okay.
What that meant. And, but I said, I'm coming off the meds. I'm going to find some people that can help me with this. So she was like, well, I can't stop you,
You're old enough.
Yeah. I was 28 by then.
You got to take your own life into your own hands and be responsible for the consequences. So.
Yeah.
So you got a combi. What colour was it?
It was mustard and red and rusted.
It was mustard and rusted.
Mustard and rusted at the time. So I think I bought it for 1,500, and
did it get you to where
brand on it or something? Yeah, it was
did it get you to where you wanted to go?
Yeah. And I hung on to it for a while, but I sold it for $500 at the end. And apparently, I heard later that people that bought it had to just leave it on the side of the road like a couple of months into it. So,
Well, they only paid $500. So I mean, if it had got them down to the next town, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, when you went up north, and you stayed where?
I had a friend that I grew up with that was living there with her newborn and partner.
So this was in Byron?
2 newborns. Around that area.
Around
the hills. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Mullumbimby up around that
Federal,
way.
It's called.
Federal. Okay.
But yeah, past Mullumbimby.
Okay.
But so I sort of bunked in with them for a while.
How long did you stay out there?
That time round, 3 or 4 years. I found a boyfriend. I moved in with him. I found people I got off meds living with this guy in his house, and I had so many seizures because that wasn't a stable relationship either. So what I realised when I documented all these things around why they were coming, because as I weaned off, stress, but also just that whole, because it all started when my parents got divorced. So all that stuff around abandonment and not feeling secure and all that sort of stuff, it was so hardwired into my brain that I actually
chose that life.
In some ways, gave myself epilepsy, yes, because of the way I mean, it was already, I've got, a sensitive brain.
But that was the shock that set it off.
In a way, for me, it was emotionally charged.
Yeah.
So you put emotionally charged brain function into an already sensitive brain, and there's going to be some excitement.
Yeah. I love the way to describe it. There's going to be some excitement. So when you discovered alternative medicines, or not being on the medicines, and looking at how you could control your epilepsy, what was it that really turned it around?
Well, when I journaled for about 6 months, everything that was happening around them, off the meds, and finding out what my triggers are, and then realizing I had to work on on those triggers, so that if things were happening in my life, that my brain wouldn't just go to default of shutdown, that I could deal with them, deal with them instead of just going too hard, boom, down on the floor, frothing at the mouth. Yeah. So that happened for a while,
And that would have been pretty scary in a way.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
And so what do you do now to keep your epilepsy under control?
Well, now it's a whole different ball game, because even back then, like even now, so even 10 years ago, or a little bit more, I decided to eat healthy. I got into that whole
Healthy
actually,
living.
it was 20 years ago. Healthy living, cut out the red wine, because the red wine sort of, I observed the red wine would give me little flutters in the morning, which it doesn't now, but it did back then. Eliminate relationships that are just toxic for me, So instead of trying to find the partner with the clipped wing that I have to heal, just give him a Band-Aid and send him on his way. Yeah,
absolutely. Give him a Band-Aid.
Give him a Band-Aid, send him on his way, and just So relationships are a big one for me, having to learn that. And now I just have mindfulness was a really big one in detaching from my thoughts around it, because there came a stage where that's all I could think about was where, am I going to wake up and have a seizure today?
Okay.
And so
it's a pretty scary thought.
It was, and I think for a lot of people with epilepsy, because it's such an invisible illness and you're just trying to manage it, you can never heal it.
Yeah. You can manage it?
You can manage it.
Yeah. And that's what you have to learn to do, is manage it.
I'm on the very minimal dose of meds because I manage it, because I'm adamant that I don't want to be on any meds, but maybe I have to be on a little bit. But the rest of the time I'm eating well, so my gut and my brain are very connected.
Yeah, and they are.
I'm eating well, I'm exercising, which is really important for anyone with anyone in general, but anyone with a brain, you need to get the oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
And the blood flowing up to the brain. Exercise, yoga, particularly mindfulness, diet, and surrounding yourself with people that
are like-minded and positive
people. Yeah. Toxic environments will just feed your brain to shut down.
Remove yourself from those toxic environments.
Toxic environments and inflammation. So inflammation is the number one.
And you can have inflammation without even knowing that you've got inflammation in your body, and your body reacts in lots of different ways. So, when you're eating, there might be things that give you inflammation. There might be stress. Stress gives you inflammation.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. So you have to be aware of all those things, don't you?
You do. And that's what we are doing, because we're now, I'm writing a show. So I've taken the focus away from my story And now I'm writing a show, more of an educational story with storytelling and comedy.
Yeah.
But more of an insight for people into what the brain. There you go. Her name's Nora.
This is Nora. She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
She has a little sleeve at the back, and her brain usually lights up and flickers and does all that sort of thing, so that Lainie can show you what actually happens to the brain when you have a seizure. But it's really important that I think not only those that have seizures understand what's going on, but us as a community need to be educated to understand what we can do to support someone who is having a seizure and not make them feel frightened or scared or embarrassed when they wake up from a seizure, particularly if they're out in the community and they have one and fall in the street. Just treat them, sit with them, ask them questions, give them some time to come back to some form of normality, and then sit with them and just wait and see how they feel and what's going on with them, and to see if they need someone to come and pick them up to take them home or whatever it is. But don't put any pressure on them or panic or throw your emotions on them.
Well, that's the most important, I think, is that there's a few people, because I used to hide it from people, and friends would see it and go, where the hell did that come from? You never told me that. And I realized that it was really selfish of me. Like in my effort to try and hide it, what I was also doing was I wasn't giving people the information they needed so they wouldn't freak out. And a few people who have been close to me, when they've seen one, have had severe reactions.
Panic attacks?
Like a bit of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
Because they weren't prepared.
Yes.
They didn't know what to do.
Yes.
And they saw someone that they loved in a position where there's absolutely nothing that you can do. Except wait for that brain to rewire itself.
Yeah.
And the human mind needs to fix things. So
we do, don't we?
We need to fix things. But the thing is that you cannot fix someone having a seizure unless it's like full on, unless it's like right at the other end, past the 5-minute mark, going into the 10-minute mark where they're actually losing oxygen to the brain.
So get an ambulance then.
After 5,
Yeah.
So timing's good. And also, I just think the more people are prepared in their minds about what to do, the less they'll be so freaked out. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Friends that have seen my show or read the book have actually texted me and said, oh my God, someone at work just had a seizure. I knew exactly what to do. It all went smoothly. I felt so good. And the ultimate thing about that is...
Well, that's the whole purpose of the book. It's, it's all about education, isn't it? It's all about educating the community to understand that, it might be misfiring of the brain and someone might be doing something that's not quite right, but there's no judgment there. It is what it is. Know how to deal with it and then move on in life and not be stressed about it. And it's all about...
And feel good that you
did something.
Were able to help that person. Because even though you think you're not doing anything, you're doing a massive job. You're protecting them.
Yeah.
You're protecting them because they've gone. We've gone.
Yeah.
Gone. It's just a physical body and a brain trying to, and a computer trying to reboot. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Really.
So when do you plan on having your new show?
Well, I'm in the creative process now. I'm doing a show for adults and then I'm also doing shows to take into schools.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And schools would be a great place to take it, Lainie, because I think that, there's probably kids within the school system that suffer from, live with epilepsy. And we've had this discussion, Lainie and I, and it's not suffering. It is actually living with epilepsy. And if their friends and people around them at school, young kids know what to do, and young kids are pretty resilient and they pick up things really quickly, but they need to understand what it is first so that they can actually help their friends when they see it.
And she's a fantastic educational tool because, she just brings some humour and light into it. And I'll be, doing shows for year 7 to year 12 and then Also taking it into unis for psychology students to try and understand, the workings of the brain.
Fantastic.
So there's a vision in there, but I have to write I'm in the creative process, so I just have to write.
It's all there. All you have to do is put it down on paper and then start doing it. Start doing it. Well, Laine, would 2 tips that you would give somebody that actually lives with epilepsy, that is trying to hide it, doesn't want really anyone to know, what would you say to them?
Good question, Faye. I would say trust. Find a couple of people you can trust and get it off your chest somehow. Like, because if you're trying to hide, take this whole thing on by yourself,
you ain't gonna win.
There will be mental repercussions about it that could make the epilepsy worse. Because I started with an epilepsy diagnosis and then got a secondary anxiety condition, which I don't have anymore, around having it because I didn't tell anyone. Had them all by myself. Plus, I've been lucky. I have gratitude every day that I'm alive. I've had, as I said, I've had nearly 300 tonic-clonic seizures, but I would say 240 of them I took myself off to be alone in, and that's playing with fire.
Yeah, that is. So, okay, and I want you to give 2 tips to people like myself who are in the general community and don't live with epilepsy. When we see someone having a seizure, what can we do to make them feel more comfortable?
Well, as you said before, when stay to the very end, and just make sure that they know where they are, who they are, and that they're compos mentis before they go off on their own, or they've got someone that they can call.
Yes,
it's really important.
Yes,
and also trust trust in yourself, and find that place within yourself that knows that you've got this.
Yeah.
And that what you're seeing physically is not actually what's happening. It's just a physical manifestation of a brain trying to rewire itself.
Well, thank you, Laine. It's been a very fascinating conversation, and I'm sure that if you go to Lainie's website, which is Laine,
www.electrogirl.com.au,
you can purchase the book and read it. It is very educational and informal. Laine will be out there running her workshops and going into the schools and to the universities and into the general community and running her workshop and running her shows as well. So look out for Laine. Support her when she starts running them so that she can get the word out there.
And if you've got anything that you think you can offer, anything like to aid in this, if you've got knowledge or if you've got something about the brain or if you've even got your own story, on my website I'm going to set up a storytelling page and run something like that. So please contact me through even Facebook, Lainie Chait, or speaker. Just type in Electro Girl to Facebook, or just contact me via
your website. Yeah. But remember, Electro Girl or Lainie Chait. This has been Faye Waterman for Talking All Things Business, and an educational process today, which has been fascinating. And I think that it's really important that we actually do get the message of people living with, not necessarily just epilepsy, but anything, any illness or something, that we are educated as a community to understand it and be able to help if they need help, and not look at them as freaks or something like that, because it's really important that we support them, not judge them. So it's bye for now, and until next time. Thank you, Laine.
Thanks, Faye.
Pleasure.
Fabulous. Bye.